The night was dark and silent. The sky had no stars. The air felt heavy and still. Far above the earth, something moved fast through the sky. It was not a plane. It was not a shooting star. It was a broken spaceship, burning and falling. The ship shook hard as it entered the atmosphere. Fire covered its metal body. Pieces broke away and disappeared into the darkness. Inside the ship, a small alien child was alone. Its body was weak. Its eyes were glowing softly. It was scared. The child held onto a broken seat as the ship lost control. Loud alarms echoed. Inside, red lights flashed again and again. The child did not understand what was happening, but it felt danger. It felt fear. Then suddenly, the ship crashed into the ground with a loud explosion. Fire spread across the empty land. Smoke filled the air. The ground shook for a moment, and then everything became quiet again. Not far from the crash site, a man named Jake was walking alone. His face was tired. His eyes were empty. Jake was not a happy man. He had lost everything. Years ago, his family, his purpose, his hope. Since that day, he lived alone. Away from people, away from the world. He heard the loud crash and stopped walking. He looked toward the smoke rising in the distance. For a moment, he thought about ignoring it. He did not care about anything anymore. But something inside him pushed him forward. Jake slowly walked toward the crash site. Step by step, when he reached the place, he saw the broken spaceship. It was unlike anything he had ever seen before. The metal was strange, glowing in some parts, broken in others. Fire still burned around it, but something else caught his attention. A small movement inside the wreckage. Jake narrowed his eyes and moved closer. Then he saw it, a small alien child. Sitting among the broken pieces, the child looked at him with glowing eyes full of fear and confusion. Jake froze for a moment. He could not believe what he was seeing. This was not human. This was something else. Something unknown. The child tried to move but fell weakly. It was hurt. Jake felt something strange inside his chest, something he had not felt in years. He slowly stepped closer. The child did not run. It did not attack. It only watched him. Jake knelt down in front of it, keeping some distance, for a few seconds. Both of them stayed still, just looking at each other. Then the child slowly reached out its small hand. Jake hesitated. His mind told him to step back, to leave, to forget this. But his heart did not listen. Slowly, he reached out his hand too. The moment their hands touched, something strange happened. A soft light appeared between them. Jake felt a sudden warmth inside his body. Like energy moving through him, his heart beat faster. His mind became clear for a second. The child also reacted. Its glowing eyes became brighter. Neither of them understood what just happened, but something had changed. Jake quickly pulled his hand back, breathing heavily. "This is not normal," he whispered to himself. The child looked at him again, but this time, it did not look afraid. It looked calm. Jake looked around. The fire was still burning. Smoke was rising high into the sky. "This place is not safe," he said quietly. He looked back at the child. For a moment, he thought about leaving it there. This was not his problem. This was not his world. But again, that strange feeling returned. Jake took a deep breath. Then slowly he picked up the child. It was light and weak. It did not resist. Instead, it rested quietly in his arms, far away in the dark sky. A silent signal was sent from the crashed ship. Somewhere someone received it, and they started moving toward Earth. Jake did not know this. He only knew one thing. His life was about to change, and the child he was holding was not normal. Jake walked fast through the empty road, holding the small alien child carefully in his arms. The night was still dark, but his mind was full of questions. He did not understand what he had just seen. A spaceship, an alien, strange light. None of it made sense. But the child felt real. Its small body was warm. Its breathing was slow and weak. Jake reached his small house at the edge of the town, a quiet place where no one came. He quickly opened the door and went inside, then locked it behind him. The house was simple and a little broken, just like him. He placed the child gently on an old couch, stepping back as if it might suddenly attack. For a few seconds, he only watched. The child looked around the room, its glowing eyes moving slowly. Trying to understand this new place, it did not look dangerous. It looked lost. Jake ran his hand through his hair, feeling nervous. "What are you?" he whispered. The child tilted its head slightly, as if trying to understand his voice. Then something strange happened again. Jake felt a soft pressure in his mind. Not pain, but something different, like a quiet voice without words. He stepped back quickly. "No, stay out of my head," he said, breathing faster. The child reacted, its eyes dimmed a little, and it lowered its head. It looked hurt, not physically, but emotionally. Jake noticed this and stopped for a moment. The room became silent again. Then, the child slowly raised its hand. A faint blue light appeared around it. Jake watched carefully, ready to move if something went wrong. The light moved toward his arm, where he had a small cut from earlier. Before he could react, the light touched his skin. A warm feeling spread through his arm. The pain disappeared. Jake looked down in shock. The cut was gone, completely healed. "What?" he whispered. He looked at the child again. It was breathing slowly, as if using that power made it tired. Jake's fear started to change into something else. Curiosity, and maybe trust. He sat down on a chair near the couch, keeping some distance. "Did you just heal me?" he asked quietly. The child looked at him, its eyes glowing softly again. It did not speak, but somehow Jake felt the answer, yes. He stayed silent for a long moment, thinking. This child was not a weapon, not a monster. It was something else, something gentle. The child slowly moved closer on the couch. Still watching him carefully, Jake did not move away this time. Minutes passed. The tension in the room slowly faded. Then suddenly, Jake's expression changed. A memory came into his mind, his old life, his family, laughter, happiness, and then loss. His face became heavy, his eyes filled with pain. The child noticed this. It slowly reached out again, but this time, it did not use light. It only touched his hand softly, and once again, Jake felt something. But this time it was not energy, it was emotion, warmth, comfort, something he had not felt in years. His breathing slowed down. His body relaxed. The pain in his chest felt lighter. Jake looked at the child, surprised. "You can feel that too," he said softly. The child did not move. It only stayed close, as if it understood him without words. For the first time in a long time, Jake did not feel alone. The silence in the house was no longer heavy. It felt calm, safe. Hours passed slowly. The child fell asleep on the couch, its small body finally at rest. Jake covered it with an old blanket, still unsure why he was doing all this. But deep inside, he already knew the answer. He cared, even if he did not want to admit it. Outside, far above the clouds, a small drone entered Earth's atmosphere. It moved silently, scanning the ground below, searching. The signal from the crash site was still active, and it was getting stronger. Back inside the house, Jake stood near the window, looking into the dark night. Something did not feel right. He could not explain it, but he felt danger coming. He looked back at the sleeping child. "This is not over," he said quietly. In the distance, a small red light appeared in the sky, moving closer, watching. Morning came slowly. Soft light entered through the broken window. The world outside looked calm, but inside the house, nothing was normal. Jake stood near the window, watching the empty road. He had not slept all night. His mind was still thinking about everything that happened. Behind him, the small alien child was still sleeping on the couch. Its breathing was soft and peaceful. For a moment, it looked like a normal child. But Jake knew the truth. "This is bigger than me," he said quietly. He turned and walked toward the couch, looking at the child carefully. Its glowing eyes slowly opened, adjusting to the light for a second. It looked confused. Then it saw Jake, and it became calm again. Jake noticed that. "You trust me?" he said softly, almost surprised. The child sat up slowly, still weak but better than before. Jake walked to the kitchen and brought a glass of water, placing it near the child. "I don't know what you eat, but this is all I have," he said. The child looked at the glass, then at Jake. It touched the glass gently, and a soft blue light appeared again. The water inside started to move slowly, like it was alive. Jake stepped closer, watching carefully. The child lifted the water into the air without touching it. The floating drops moved around like small glowing stars. Jake's eyes widened. "Okay, that's new," he said under his breath. Then suddenly, the child lost control. The water dropped back into the glass, spilling everywhere. The child looked down, as if it made a mistake. Jake noticed its reaction. "It's okay. You're learning," he said. The child looked at him again, and for a moment, Jake felt something in his mind. A feeling, not words trying. The child was trying to understand its own power. Jake nodded slowly. "Yeah, me too," he said quietly. Time passed, and Jake started to notice more things. The child could feel emotions, it could heal, and now it could move objects, but it had no control, and that made it dangerous. Not because it wanted to hurt anyone, but because it didn't know how not to. Suddenly, the TV in the corner turned on by itself. A loud news voice filled the room. "Breaking news. Reports of a strange object crashing near the northern fields last night. Authorities are investigating. Witnesses say it was not a normal aircraft." Jake froze. He quickly grabbed the remote and turned the TV off. "They already know," he said, his voice tense. The child looked at him, sensing his fear. Its eyes dimmed slightly. Jake walked back to the window, looking outside again. The road was still empty, but something felt wrong. Then he saw it, high in the sky, a small black dot moving slowly. Too steady to be a bird, too quiet to be a plane. Jake's eyes narrowed. "A drone," he whispered. The drone stopped in the air, as if scanning the area. A faint red light blinked under it. Jake stepped back quickly, pulling the curtain closed. "They're already here," he said, his voice low. The child stood up from the couch. Looking toward the window, its body became tense. It could feel the danger too. Suddenly, a sharp sound came from outside. A signal pulse. The child reacted instantly. Its eyes started glowing brighter. A strong energy wave spread through the room. Lights began to flicker. The glass on the table cracked slightly. Jake looked at the child, shocked. "Hey, calm down." "It's okay," he said quickly. But the child was scared, and its power was growing. The walls shook lightly. The air felt heavy again, just like the night of the crash. Jake moved closer, even though he was afraid. "Listen to me. You're safe here," he said firmly. The child looked at him, its glowing eyes unstable. Jake slowly reached out his hand again. "Focus on me." "Not them," he said. For a second, nothing happened. Then the child slowly took his hand. The energy around them changed. The light became softer, calmer. The shaking stopped. Everything became quiet again. Jake let out a slow breath. "Yeah, that's it," he said. Outside, the drone moved away slowly, as if it had found what it was looking for. Jake looked toward the window again, his face serious now. "They know where we are," he said. He looked down at the child. "We don't have much time." Far away, in a hidden control center, a group of people watched a screen. A signal was blinking clearly now, locked, tracked, and a voice said calmly, "Target confirmed. Send the team." Back in the house, Jake grabbed his jacket, his mind already made up. "We have to move now," he said, because he knew one thing for sure. They were getting closer, and this time, they were not coming to observe. They were coming to take the child. Jake moved quickly through the house, his hands shaking but his mind focused. He grabbed a small bag and threw in whatever he could find. "Food, water, an old flashlight. We don't have time," he said under his breath. The child stood near the door, watching him, its glowing eyes calm but alert. It could feel the change in the air. The danger was closer now. Jake looked at the child and pointed toward the door. "Stay close to me, don't run," he said. The child nodded slightly, as if it understood. Outside, the sound of engines broke the morning silence. Low, heavy, getting closer. Jake froze for a second. "They're already here," he whispered. Without wasting another moment, he opened the back door. "Come on," he said. They stepped outside into the cold air. The sky was gray now, clouds covering the sun. Jake moved fast toward the trees behind his house, keeping low. The child followed him closely, its small steps quick but careful. Behind them, black vehicles stopped near the house, doors opened, and armed soldiers stepped out. Their movements were precise, trained. "This is a controlled operation. Secure the area," one of them said through a radio. Jake looked back once, his heart beating fast. "They found us too fast," he said. He and the child entered the forest, the trees thick and silent. For a moment, it felt like they had escaped. But then, a sharp buzzing sound filled the air. Another drone, closer this time. It moved between the trees, scanning, searching. Jake grabbed the child's hand and pulled it behind a large tree. "Stay quiet," he whispered. The drone passed slowly, a red light sweeping across the ground. The child's breathing became faster. It was scared again, and Jake felt it, not just by looking, but inside his mind, fear, confusion, pressure. "Hey, calm down," Jake said softly. But the sound of soldiers moving through the forest grew louder. Branches breaking, footsteps getting closer. "Spread out, don't let them escape," a voice echoed. The child's eyes suddenly started glowing brighter. The air around them changed. Jake felt it instantly. "No, not now," he said quickly. But it was too late. A strong wave of energy burst out from the child. The ground shook lightly, leaves flew into the air. The drone above them stopped suddenly, then fell to the ground with a loud crash. Jake looked at the child, shocked. "Control it. You have to control it," he said. But the child was overwhelmed. Its power was reacting to its fear. More energy spread out. Nearby trees cracked. Small stones lifted into the air. The soldiers saw the disturbance. "Target located," one of them shouted. Gunlights pointed toward the source. Jake's eyes widened. "Run," he said loudly. He grabbed the child and started running deeper into the forest. Bullets hit the trees behind them. The sound of shouting filled the air. "Do not lose them." Jake ran as fast as he could, his breath heavy, his body tired. But he did not stop. The child held onto him tightly, its energy still unstable. Suddenly, they reached a small clearing. Jake stopped for a second, looking around. No clear path, no easy escape. The soldiers were closing in. "We're trapped," he said quietly. The child stepped forward slowly, its glowing eyes focused now, not scared, different. Jake noticed the change. "What are you doing?" he asked. The child raised its hand. A powerful light formed around it, stronger than before. Ground started shaking again, but this time it was controlled. The soldiers stepped into the clearing, weapons ready. "Drop to your knees," one of them shouted. Jake stood in front of the child, protecting it. "No," he said firmly. The child released its power. A strong wave pushed forward. The soldiers were thrown back, their weapons falling from their hands. Their machines stopped working. Their radios went silent. Everything electronic shut down instantly. The clearing became quiet again. Jake looked around in shock. The soldiers were alive, but unable to move. The child lowered its hands slowly, breathing heavily. Jake looked at it, realizing something important. "This is not just a child," he said softly. "This is something powerful." The child looked at him, its eyes slowly returning to normal. But far above them, another drone watched everything, recording, sending data, and somewhere far away, a voice spoke coldly. "Level of power confirmed. This is no longer a simple mission." Back in the forest, Jake took a deep breath. This was just the beginning, he said. Because he knew now. They would not stop, not after seeing what the child could do. The forest became quiet again. The sound of soldiers was gone. But the danger was not over. Jake stood still for a moment, trying to catch his breath. His body was tired, but his mind was moving fast. He looked at the child. It was standing calmly. Now but its face looked weak. The use of power had drained it. "You did that," Jake said softly, still in shock. The child did not react with pride or fear. It only looked at him, as if waiting for his response. Jake slowly walked closer. For the first time, he was not afraid of it. He was worried for it. "You need to rest," he said. The child blinked slowly, as if understanding. Jake looked around the forest, then pointed toward a deeper path. "We can't stay here, they will come back." They started walking again. Slower this time, careful and quiet. After some time, they found a small abandoned cabin hidden between the trees. The wood was old, the door half broken, but it was enough for now. Jake pushed the door open and looked inside. Dust covered everything. But it was safe, at least for a short time. "Stay here," he said as he entered. The child followed him without hesitation. Jake cleaned a small space on the floor and placed his bag down. "You can sit," he said, pointing. The child sat quietly. Watching him, Jake gave it some water again, this time slowly helping it drink. "You need energy," he said. The child looked at him carefully, then softly touched his hand. This time, no strong power, no bright light, only a gentle warmth. Jake felt it again. That calm feeling, that connection. He did not pull his hand away. Instead, he let it stay. Minutes passed in silence, but it was not an empty silence. It felt peaceful. Jake leaned back against the wall, his eyes closing for a moment. "I don't even know your name," he said quietly. The child tilted its head. "Name?" Jake repeated slowly, pointing at himself. "Jake." He then pointed at the child, waiting. The child looked confused at first, then thoughtful, as if trying to understand the meaning. Jake smiled slightly, something he had not done in a long time. "You'll learn," he said. Hours passed, and the light outside started to fade. The day was ending, and the cold night was coming again. Jake sat near the small broken window, keeping watch. The child rested quietly, but its eyes were open, always aware. Suddenly, Jake heard a distant sound. Not close, but not far either. Engines. He stood up quickly, his face serious again. "They're still looking," he said. The child stood up too, sensing the tension. Jake looked at it, then shook his head. "No. Not this time," he said. He walked closer and placed his hand gently on the child's shoulder. "You can't keep using your power like that. It will hurt you." The child looked at him, its glowing eyes softer now. Then slowly something unexpected happened. The child spoke, very softly, very slowly. "Stay." Jake froze, his eyes widened. You said something," he whispered. The child looked at him again. "Stay." It repeated. Jake felt something deep inside his chest, a feeling he had buried for years. Emotion, real emotion. He looked away for a moment, trying to control himself. Then he nodded slowly. "Yeah. I'm not going anywhere," he said. The child moved closer and held onto his arm gently, not because of fear, but because of trust. Jake took a deep breath, his decision becoming clear now. This was no longer about survival. This was about protection. "I won't let them take you," he said, firmly, even if he knew the risk, even if he knew what he was up against. Far away, in a dark control room, multiple screens showed the forest area. Heat signals, movement patterns, tracking lines. "They have stopped moving," a voice said. "Good," another replied calmly. "Send the next unit." No mistakes this time. Back in the cabin, Jake prepared what little he had. His face was no longer empty, it had purpose now. He looked at the child one more time and said quietly, "Whatever happens, I'll protect you, even if it meant one thing, losing his own life." The night grew darker around the small cabin. Cold wind moved through the trees, and the silence felt heavy again. Jake stood near the door, listening carefully. Every small sound made him alert. The child sat quietly behind him. Its glowing eyes focused, no longer confused, no longer weak. It had changed, not just in power, but in understanding. Far away, a deep rumbling sound began to rise. Not just one engine, many. Jake closed his eyes for a second. "They're here," he said slowly. Red lights appeared between the trees, moving fast, surrounding the area. This time, they came prepared. Armored vehicles stopped at every side. Soldiers stepped out with heavy gear. Stronger weapons, advanced machines above them. Multiple drones hovered in the sky, watching every movement. There was no escape path left. Jake looked at the child. "This is it," he said. The child stood up, calm but serious. It stepped closer to him, then gently held his hand. The same warm feeling passed between them again. But this time, it was stronger, not just comfort, trust. Jake took a deep breath, then nodded. "Stay behind me," he said, even though he knew it would not be that simple. A loud voice echoed through a speaker outside. "You are surrounded. Step out slowly and surrender the entity." Jake clenched his fists. "No," he said quietly. The door suddenly broke open with force. Soldiers rushed in, pointing their weapons. "Do not move," one of them shouted. Jake stepped in front of the child instantly. "You're not taking it," he said, his voice steady. The soldiers moved closer. "This is your last warning." The child looked at the soldiers, its eyes glowing brighter. It could feel their intention, cold, controlled, without care. Jake noticed the change. "Wait," he said quickly. But it was too late. The child stepped forward, its small hand raised slowly. A powerful light formed around it, brighter than ever before. The air inside the cabin became heavy, almost impossible to breathe. The soldiers reacted instantly, fire, but before they could shoot, the child released its power. A massive wave of energy exploded outward. The walls of the cabin shattered. Wood pieces flew in every direction. The soldiers were thrown back, their weapons falling uselessly. Outside, the vehicles shut down instantly, engines dead, lights gone. The drones in the sky flickered, then dropped one by one, crashing into the ground. Everything stopped. Complete silence. Jake stood frozen, watching the destruction around him. But then he noticed something important. No one was dead. The soldiers were alive, only unconscious. The machines were destroyed, but the people were safe. The child slowly lowered its hand, its breathing heavy, its body shaking. Jake looked at it, understanding what it had done. "You held back," he said softly. The child looked at him, its glowing eyes fading slowly. It had power to destroy everything, but it chose not to, because it had learned something from him. Kindness control humanity. Suddenly, more lights appeared in the sky, bigger ships, stronger presence. Jake's face became serious again. "This isn't over," he said. The child stepped closer to him again, standing by his side, not hiding, not afraid, ready. From one of the large ships, a voice came through, a powerful signal. "This level of power is confirmed. Proceed with extreme caution." Jake looked up at the sky, then back at the child. "They won't stop," he said. The child looked at him, calm and strong. For the first time, it was not reacting to fear. It was making a choice. The ground around them still carried the energy of the blast. A silent warning. Jake took a deep breath. "No matter what comes next, we face it together," he said. The child nodded slightly above them. The ships moved into position, watching, waiting, preparing for something bigger. And in that moment, the world was about to see something it had never seen before. Not just power, but a choice that would change everything. The sky above the forest was no longer dark. Large ships hovered silently, their lights covering the ground below. The air felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. Jake stood beside the child, both of them looking up, neither of them running anymore. There was nowhere left to run. But this time, Jake did not feel fear the same way. Something inside him had changed. The child stepped slightly forward, its small figure standing against something much bigger. The ships above began to move slowly, forming a circle, watching, studying. A deep voice came from the sky, calm but powerful, unknown entity. You have shown extreme abilities. Surrender now, and you will not be harmed. Jake looked up and shook his head. They still don't understand, he said quietly. The child looked at him, then back at the sky. Its glowing eyes were steady, not wild, not afraid, different from before. This time it was in control. Another voice came, colder than the first. If you resist, we will be forced to take action. Jake stepped forward, standing in front of the child again. No, you won't, he said. His voice was not loud, but it was strong. The child gently touched his arm, as if telling him something without words. Jake looked down at it, and for a moment, everything became quiet again. The child slowly walked past him, moving into the open space. Jake felt a sudden fear. Wait, he said, but the child did not stop. It raised its small hand toward the sky. Not in attack, but in peace. A soft light appeared around it, different from before. No force, no destruction, only calm energy. The light spread slowly into the air, rising toward the ships. The machines above reacted, scanning, analyzing. What is this? A voice said. The energy touched the ships, not damaging them, but connecting. Inside the control systems, something unexpected happened. Data streams changed, signals shifted. Not an attack, a message, a feeling. The same feeling Jake had felt before. Warmth, trust, understanding. The people inside the ships went silent. They were not seeing danger. They were feeling something else. Something human, on the ground. Jake watched in disbelief. It's showing them, he said softly. The child's body glowed brighter, but still calm. Its power was no longer uncontrolled. It was clear, focused, meaningful. The ships stopped moving. Their lights softened. The tension in the air began to fade after a long moment. The deep voice spoke again. This is not hostility. Another voice followed, slower this time. It is communication. Jake let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. They understand, he said. The child slowly lowered its hand, the light fading gently. Its body became weak again. The effort had taken a lot from it. Jake ran forward and caught it before it fell. I got you, he said softly. The ships above began to move away. Slowly, carefully, not in retreat, but in acceptance. This planet is not under threat. The voice said, stand down. One by one, the ships turned and disappeared into the sky, leaving silence behind. The forest became calm again. No more machines. No more soldiers, only Jake and the child. Jake looked down at it, relief clear on his face. You did it, he said. The child opened its eyes slowly, looking at him for a moment. It said nothing. Then softly, gently, it spoke. I love you. Jake froze. Those words hit deeper than anything else. His eyes filled with emotion. Something he had kept hidden for years. He smiled, a real smile, and pulled the child closer. Yeah, he whispered. I love you too. The wind moved softly through the trees. The first light of morning appeared on the horizon. A new day was beginning. Not just for the world, but for them. The broken man who had lost everything had found a reason to live again, and the alien child who came from a distant world had learned the most human thing of all, love, and in that moment, they were no longer alone.